everyone, it's Sarah and welcome to my crochet channel. Today's video I'm going to show you how to crochet the frosted chevron scarf. Now if you've ever tried to stitch the chevron and got frustrated or you didn't get your edges even, this is the pattern for you. I'm going to show you how to do the simple repeats and also how to get your edges nice and straight. It's a lot easier than you think. Now you can find this free crochet pattern on my blog, and I'll put that blog link down in the notes underneath this video. To make the frosted chevron scarf, you're going to need some medium weight number 4 yarn. I designed this one using the Sweet Roll Frostie from Premier Yarns, and you need about 5 ounces of any yarn that you like. I think ombres would be pretty with this. Variegated, solid, you could stripe it as you want to. Any yarn that you have on hand that's a medium weight number 4 would be perfect for this chevron scarf. We're going to be stitching today with our eye hook, which is a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. You'll need a needle to weave those ends in, and of course a pair of scissors. The scarf is stitched in rows, and if you stitch the pattern according to what I have written, you're going to get a scarf that's about 10 inches across. You can always add more rows if you want your scarf longer, and you can add more of our repeats if you want it wider. You can also find those multiples and stitch counts on that blog that's down in the notes underneath this video. Alright, let's get started. We'll start with our slip knot, and we're going to chain 33 chains. Now I do recommend that you stitch this initial chain just a little bit loose so that the end of your scarf doesn't pucker up. I've stitched my 33 chains, and we're going to begin by placing a double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, and go through the second 2 loops. So our chain 3 counts as our first, and then we stitched a double crochet. Now we're going to stitch a double crochet in the next 2 chains. So that gives us 4 double crochets. Now we're going to stitch a V-stitch in the next chain. The V-stitch is a double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet in the same chain or stitch. Now we're going to stitch 1 double crochet in the next 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we have 4 double crochets, our V-stitch, and 4 double crochets. We're going to skip the next 2 chains, 1, 2, and then stitch 1 double crochet in the next 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then again we'll stitch a V-stitch in the next chain. Double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. Then we'll stitch a double crochet in the next 4 chains. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So now we have our second repeat. We're going to skip the next 2, stitch 1 double crochet in the next 4, Now we'll stitch that V-stitch in the next, double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet in the same stitch, and then we'll stitch 1 double crochet in these last 4 chains. And we'll go ahead and chain 1. All right, let's take a look at it. So we have 3 V-stitches. We have 2 places where we skip 2 chains, and then we have 24 double crochets. And that's how row 1 will look. All right, let's do row 2. We chained 1. Chain 1 does not count as a stitch here or on any other row. It's merely a turning chain. We're going to stitch the first 2 double crochets together, or that's also called a decrease, a double crochet decrease. Yarn over, go in through the first double crochet and pull up a loop. We'll go in the next double crochet and pull up a loop. You'll have 4 loops on your hook instead of the normal 3. Yarn over, go through the first 3 loops, yarn over, and go through those last 2 loops. So what we did is we turned 2 double crochets into 1. We're going to double crochet in the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. That brings us to our chain 1 space, and we're going to stitch a V-stitch in the chain 1 space. Double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. Now we're going to stitch 1 double crochet in the next 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to skip those next 2 double crochets and double crochet in the next 4 stitches. 1, 2, whoops, there we go, 3 and 4. This brings us to our next chain 1 space, and we'll stitch double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in that chain 1 space. Now we'll stitch 1 double crochet in the next 4. We'll skip those next 2 double crochets and stitch 1 double crochet in the next 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. That brings us to our next chain 1 space. Stitch a V-stitch in the chain 1 space, double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. Then we'll stitch 1 double crochet in the next 3. 1, 2, 3. That leaves us our chain 3 and our double crochet, and we're going to stitch those together the same way that we did over here. Yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, then we'll go in the next stitch, which is our chain 3, and pull up a loop. We'll have 3 loops on our hook. Yarn over, go through the first 3, yarn over, and go through the last 2, and chain 1. All right, now let's look at what we accomplished this row. We stitched the first 2 together, and we stitched 3 double crochets, V-stitch in the chain 1 space, 4 double crochets, skip 2, 4 double crochets, V-stitch, 4 double crochets, skip 2, 4 double crochets, V-stitch, 3 double crochets, and then we stitch the last 2 together. All right, let's do row 3. we did our chain 1 and turn. We're going to stitch the first 2 double crochets together like we did on row 2. So yarn over, go in the first and pull up a loop. Then we'll go in the next and pull up a loop. Yarn over, go through the first 3, yarn over and go through the last 2 loops. 1 double crochet in the next 3, 1, 2, 3, brings us to our chain 1 space. So we'll double crochet, chain 1 and double crochet for our V-stitch. 1 double crochet in the next 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right. Now we're going to skip those next 2 double crochets, 1, 2, and stitch 1 double crochet in the next 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Whoops. V-stitch in the V-stitch, which again is a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Then we'll stitch 1 double crochet in the next 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And again, we're going to skip those 2 double crochets and stitch 1 double crochet in the next 4. So now we're to our last V-stitch. So we'll stitch a V-stitch in that chain 1 space. 1 double crochet in the next 3. 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to stitch these last 2 stitches together. Yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, then we'll go in the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 3, yarn over and go through the last 2 and chain 1. And this is the way that row 3 should look. And you're going to notice that the sides of both ends are going to be nice and straight. All right, so for row 3 we have the same we did as row 2. 1 double crochet decrease or stitching 2 together, 3 double crochets and our V-stitch, 4 double crochets, skip 2, 4 double crochets, V-stitch, 4 double crochets, skip 2, 4 double crochets, V-stitch, 3 double crochets, and our decrease or stitching 2 double crochets together. All right, let's do row 4. Again, we've chained 1 and turn. And row 4 is exactly like row 3. We're going to stitch the first 2 double crochets together, yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, go in the next one, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the 3, yarn over and go through the 2 loops. Then we'll double crochet in the next 3. 1, 2, and 3. Now we'll V-stitch in the chain 1 space of the V-stitch from the previous row. Double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet is our V-stitch. Then we'll stitch 1 double crochet in the next 4. 1, 2, 3, oops, there we go, and 4. We're going to skip those next 2 double crochets and stitch 1 double crochet in the next 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. V-stitch in the chain 1 space. 1 double crochet in the next 4. We're going to skip 2, 1 double crochet in the next 4. There we go. And V-stitch in the chain 1 space. One double crochet in the last 3. 1, 2, 3. I should say the next 3, not the last 3. And then we'll stitch the last 2 stitches together. Yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the 3, yarn over, and go through the 2 loops, and chain 1. And this is the way row 4 should look. And again, you can see how you're getting nice straight edges on both sides by doing that double crochet decrease, or stitching 2 double crochets together at the beginning and end of each row. And so now what you're going to do is you're going to continue to repeat row 3, which is what we did on row 4, and you'll repeat that for 44 more rows, and that will give you a total of 48 rows, or more if you want a longer scarf. Some people, like I said, like them longer, some like them shorter. All right, so for our pattern, you're going to repeat row 3 for 44 additional rows, and that will give you 48 rows. So my frosted chevron scarf now has 48 rows. So it's about 48 inches because each row measures approximately an inch. Now remember, some people stitch tighter, some stitch looser. So my recommendation is, if you need the scarf to be a certain amount of inches long, measure it, and if you need to add more rows, add more rows. If it's too long, take a few out. The key to getting anything in crochet the right length is always to measure as you go. All right, so when we complete our last row, we just need to cut our yarn and tie off. I don't add any trim. It's not needed. The sides are nice and neat by doing those decreased stitches. If you want to add some fringe or some pom-poms, some tassels, you can. I just don't. I like to let the chevron stitches speak for themselves and be the star of this project. So I tied off. I'm just going to weave my yarn on my needle and weave this in securely, going through some of the stitches and the fibers of the yarn so my scarf doesn't come unraveled. All right, and that's all there is to making the frosted chevron scarf. Oh, don't forget to weave in this other end where we started. That's all you have to weave in, unless of course you added yarn or striped it or something like that. But when you use a striping yarn, all you have to do is weave in the beginning and the end, and you're done.